Okay, so this week, all you have to do as far as your reading or viewing assignments go is to read Chapter 11, Guidelines, Creating a New Project, and reflect on everything that we've been talking about and learning about over the past 11 weeks by viewing and reading multiple texts. But primarily what I'm going to want you to be reflecting on is all the chapters that we've read thus far from digital storytelling. You can go back through the table of contents and remind yourself which chapters you read and then go review them, because you're going to want to refresh yourself with the terminology that we've been studying and then incorporate it into the writing assignment that you're going to be given this week for Chapter 11 that will then be folded into your final project. So we have watched The Guild, and then we also watched Frankenstein MD. Those are the two transmedia projects that we've watched. And now you're going to be reading Chapter 11, Guidelines, Creating a New Project. And so what you're going to be doing is building upon everything that you've learned over the past 11 weeks, several months, and then creating a writing project for this week as your homework that I will then give you feedback on, just like I did for last week's homework, because last week's homework and this week's homework can be expanded on and then used in your final project. Okay, so I have already graded your assignment from week 11, and I've given you all feedback on it. And I've also given you the caution not to just copy and paste what you turned in for your homework into your final project, because I've given you feedback, and I expect you to take that feedback and use it to create something even better than what you created for the homework assignment. Okay? So in Chapter 11, she starts off talking about the pre-production period. And the pre-production period is really important because that's what gives you your game plan for your entire project that you're going to be creating. And so Felicia Day and her team went through a lot of pre-planning before they started The Guild, for example. And I want to draw your attention to page 184. I'm going to read a paragraph to you. Miller says, surprising though it may be, the work that goes on during pre-production is much the same for every type of interactive project, whether the end game or the end product is a video game, content for the web, or virtual reality simulation, or a mobile app. The specific documents that are called for may vary, and the specific technical issues might be different, but the core process varies little no matter what the interactive medium might be. And so here, this image doesn't sync up exactly with what Miller is telling us, but nevertheless, these are important core ideas about what you go through in pre-production. So the kind of planning that you put together before you start a project. Step 1, come up with an idea and write a proposal. You guys already did that last week. Step 2, research, explore, and learn. Step 3, write a script. Step 4, storyboard and plan. Step 5, create images. Step 6, put it all together. Step 7, share. Step 8, feedback and reflect. We're going to be focusing on steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in your final project, and then as well 6 and 7, and then 8 actually, because I'm going to give you feedback and you're going to have a chance to reflect on that. So one thing that's worth noting, as Miller notes on page 184, is that normally in the real world you would be working with a team. It's a very artificial environment that you students have in college, where you tend to work on a project alone and then get graded only on your work. And of course, it is important for you to be honing your own skills, and that is what we're stressing here in college. But when you get out into the world beyond academia or college years, you're going to almost always be working in a team. And so it's really important that you not only think about what you want to do, but be able to articulate it to another person in a manner that which makes sense and that gets them on board with your idea, and that makes them want to invest time in your idea and to help you to produce whatever it is that you're trying to produce. And so this project will help you to think about that process. In this particular instance, you're going to be coming up with an idea for digital storytelling, transmedia storytelling project, and executing portions of that on your own. But hopefully this process will help you to think about those steps that will then translate into real skills that you can use the rest of your life when you leave CCU. All right. So as she points out, the tasks that take place during the development period include the conceptualizing of the project, addressing marketing issues, producing design documents, artwork, and other materials, building a prototype, and doing testing. We're going to be doing portions of that for your final project, okay? And she says sometimes it takes at least an average of 6 months, but sometimes it can be as brief as a few days. You guys are going to have a medium spot between those. You're going to have a few weeks to work on this, and that's why our syllabus is so sort of empty over the next couple of weeks, is because you're going to be learning about the various steps of what you're going to be asked to turn in over the next couple of weeks as you develop your final project, so that you're not just cramming it all together right before the due date. All right. So first thing she does is she lists our 5 all too common errors, and I want you to read through these errors closely because you want to avoid them in your own project, right? So number 1, throwing too much into the project. So sometimes simple is better. You want to make something that's really good, really great and simple, as opposed to something that's really complicated that nobody understands what you're doing. So do be wary of that. 2, not considering your audience. So in other words, don't just sit in a corner and sort of mumble to yourself about what you want. You need to really think long and hard about who your audience is, what they like, where they hang out online, how old they are, what sex they are. Are they male or female? What race are they? What educational background are they? Et cetera, et cetera. The list can go on and on. So do really try to consider your audience and to ask people around you. Ask for feedback. Also, making the complicated too hard or complicated, or making the product too simple. Read through these paragraphs carefully and reflect on your own project that you're coming up with. And then finally, not making the product truly interactive. We like to interact with our media, and so you want to come up with some really good ways to get your audience to interact. Now, on the next page, on page 186, she starts talking about creating the core concept. And right immediately from creating the core concept, you want to come up with what she calls a log line. I've heard it called several different things, but log line will work for us. And basically what a log line is 1 or 2 sentences that really clearly explain your project and also get your audience involved. She stresses the use of you in your log line. One of the examples that she gives at the bottom of page 186 is in Runway, you are thrust into the glamorous but cutthroat world of the fashion industry, where you play the head of a small fashion house competing against powerful rivals and try to come up with a winning line for the new season. You can see how just in that one sentence she has explained what you are going to do, the audience member or the competitor. She's also named the project in Runway. She's also used really great adjectives like cutthroat and head of, powerful rivals, winning line, new season. These are really great specific words and phrases that help to communicate what exactly it is that the audience member is going to get out of viewing your season, why they might be interested in it. So she goes on to talk about other early decisions, what specific medium, what platforms. A lot of you guys in your homework for last week sort of danced around the mediums and the platforms you're going to use. You're going to need to get very specific and make sure that we understand exactly what it is that you're up to. Now, on page 188, she talks about subject matter experts, known as SMEs. They help you do research into the topic. That's a really fancy term for like asking a lot of people what they think of your idea. Okay, I'm not going to ask you to spend a lot of time working with experts, but I am going to ask you to bounce your ideas off of people in your community. Talk to your parents, talk to your girlfriends and boyfriends, talk to your friends, talk to your fraternity and sorority members, talk to people in your classes. Like, turn to the person next to you and say, hey, what do you think of this idea? Don't be shy. The world is not judging you as much as you think they are. Usually people like to chat, and they're thrilled if you ask them a question. So ask your teachers what they think of your idea. Just do some research. Don't just sit in your dorm room and say, this is brilliant, only to find out that nobody else understands your brilliancy. So I'm sure and what I've read so far, you guys are coming up with some great ideas. Get some feedback. Don't forget that. And then you're going to make a prototype. And I'm going to discuss a little bit more what this prototype is as we go along. So page 189, we have the 10-step development checklist. And you are going to be answering these questions as well as you can for your assignment this week. Starting on page 189, it goes over all the way to page 191. So this is going to be some pre-planning work that you're going to do. I want you to put in as much effort as you can to it now. Try to clearly, concisely, persuasively articulate in as few of words as possible, but as much detail as possible. That's a really complicated tightrope to walk. What it is that you're thinking of doing in your project. The better you do on your homework assignment, the better you're going to end up doing on your final project. And the more of this you're going to be able to use in your final project. So make sure that you go through it very carefully. Make sure that you read my feedback from your homework for last week before you start your 10-step development checklist, so that you already have my feedback at this stage that will help you as you move forward, okay? So you're going to go through, what is your premise and purpose? Who is your audience and market? What mediums, platforms, and genres are you going to use? What narrative or gaming elements are you going to have? What's your user's role and point of view? Who are your characters? Structure and interface, story world and subsettings, user engagement. You're going to need to write at least one complete sentence for each bullet point. So this is going to take some time for you to do. I'm going to caution you now, you're probably going to find yourself in a situation where several of these bullet points you're going to need to write even more than a small paragraph. So do your best on this assignment for this week. Fill in as much detail as you can. Again, this will really help you as you move forward. It'll smooth the process for when you're creating the next steps in this project, as well as when you're revising this to turn it in as part of your final project, okay? So buckle down. I will make this assignment worth more than your other assignment since it is so much lengthier, all right? So I'll make this assignment for this week 40 points, and I will change that on Moodle here shortly. So that's the end of this video. And then I'm going to start in the next video talking about the second half of the chapter, which is still going to be really important to you, but it's going to be more applicable as you move into your final project. But nevertheless, it's information that you should read now and start thinking about now so that you can be mentally prepared for what's coming. Again, all of these assignments over the course of the semester and really explicitly now in the last couple weeks are building on one another. So there's going to be some more terminology you're going to want to use and examples that will be helpful. Okay?